Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? This is Colin, back at it again with episode 15 of A New Direction, the podcast where I talk about all sorts of things, ranging from a variety of topics, and just kind of give my opinion on different things, and we just kind of chill and hang out for a little bit. But today I have a very music-themed episode, so I think this will be pretty good. But like usual, we're going to start off with the music recommendation, and today we're going to be recommending A Diabolic Thirst by Spectral Wound. This is a black metal album, and Spectral Wound is based in Quebec. I think they are, they're Canadian. And so, being Canadian, I guess they kind of capture the same sort of frozen, frigid, aspect that you get from like Norwegian black metal. That's definitely present here, and so I was immediately a fan, really. And I don't really think you can go wrong with any of the tracks on this album. They're all solid. A lot of heavy riffs that are catchy, and blast beats throughout, and it's just a really good album. The vocals are really well performed. I'm a huge fan of everything really going with this album. And so notable tracks for me are Frigid and Spellbound, which is probably my favorite, and then Soul Destroying Black Debauchery, which yes, a very metal, very black metal title. And so yeah, I mean, if I were to rate this album out of 10, I'd probably give it like a 7.5 or an 8. It's really good. I recommend it to anybody who wants to listen to some new black metal, or, I mean, if you're dipping your toes into black metal, this might not be a bad place to start. I mean, it really has all the traditional elements of black metal, and so you really get a good representation of the genre here. But with that being said, we're going to go right into the topics of discussion for this video. And so the first one is going to be long hair and, my hair growth journey. And so for some context, I've been growing my hair now for a pretty long time. And before I go any further, hold on. If you hear any noise in the background, it's probably Magnolia. She's got her favorite toy in here, which is a carrot. It's like a carrot. It's about that big. And she likes to give it the devil. She's already bitten like a hole in it. So if you hear any noise, that's what's going on. But with that being said, let's continue on. So I've been growing my hair out for a pretty long while. I got, the last time I went to get any sort of haircut, I got like the ends trimmed in March. And so I made the conscious choice to grow out my hair in February, kind of like at the end of February this year. And so I've been growing it since then, or at least since my my hair trim. And I don't know, it was definitely, having long hair is definitely something that I've always kind of wanted, and my hair has always been fairly long. I mean, it's definitely kind of the longest it's ever been now. I don't know, it's kind of hard to see, but it comes down kind of here at this point. But for the longest time, I wasn't able to really, I wasn't able to really grow out long hair, just because I don't know, with school and everything, I guess I wanted to keep it kind of as clean looking as possible. And, being that the growth process has some awkward kind of stages, especially as it kind of gets down to chin level and lower, before it kind of really gets long, there's a very awkward kind of phase of growth there. And being with that, I didn't really want to deal with that going through school. And so I'd always got to get it trimmed up really short, kind of like at the summer, like the start of the summertime. And then by the time I would go back to school, it'd be a little longer. I get it trimmed up, maybe trimmed a little shorter, so it would still be kind of long. And, I would just kind of let it go from there. But, having really, really long hair was something that I had always kind of wanted to do. And so my senior year, I mean, I wasn't really going to school, with COVID and everything. And I only had one class my senior year. I only had to go for an hour, and that was all. And then I would just leave and go home and go to bed, take a nap, or go to work, or whatever I was doing. And so I kind of decided to grow out my hair, and a lot of that also had to do with just kind of the metal musicians that I kind of idolize. They all have long hair for the most part, and so I guess I took some inspiration from that and decided to grow out my hair. And so when I started, it's pretty long now. It was nowhere near this length. But when I started, my hair had been cut into layers. Every time I had gotten it cut, I would get my hair cut in layers. And so for those of you who don't know what that means, when you cut your hair in layers, what's up front is shorter than what's in the back. They're different end lengths in your hair, and it kind of gives the effect of having more volume or having like thicker hair. And so for people with curly hair like me, I have very, very curly hair. This is my natural kind of curl. You know, you kind of know that layered hair is definitely a little easier to manage, a little easier to deal with. And so I had always got it cut in layers, and I had never gone to like a consistent barber. And, I never went like consistently. So it was always getting cut differently. And so when I finally started, decided to grow it out, it was a layered, kind of beginning. And so, as you can see, the front is a lot shorter than what's in the back. But, I started growing it in February, and it was a good bit shorter than this. And, it's kind of been a good journey since then. I've definitely really liked how it's, changed and looked as it's gotten longer. And I mean, the goal is to grow it out like really, really long, probably like down my back. So, in a few years with this podcast, we'll see the effects of that. It'll be kind of cool to look back and see that I like documented this. But yeah, that's kind of been like my hair growth journey, and just long hair is something that I've always thought looked cool and just has always kind of fit my style. And so here we go, growing it out. And so far I've been really happy with it. I like it. And I've kind of run into the classic kind of long-haired issues that you run into, where you kind of are like laying on it a lot, or like you pull it, but it's not long enough to get in my food yet. So it's not quite an issue. But yeah, with that being said, we're going to move on. The next topic is guitarists / bands that I'm very inspired by musically. And so there's honestly, a lot of, I guess, influences that go into my music, because, my taste in music has changed a lot over time. And I've talked about kind of that before. I did kind of gloss over, I remember I glossed over Def Heaven in that kind of timeline. And Def Heaven played an absolute, like a massive role in my music writing. And just, how I write music is really kind of based off of what I learned, learning all of the Def Heaven music that I learned on guitar. But, I kind of have a diverse sort of interest or in music. And so my inspirations are kind of varied, but I would say, like, if I were to pick them all out, and I mean, a lot of them are metal, but it's different kinds of metal. And so if I were to pick them out, my number one influence musically, like as a musician, would definitely be the late Euronymus of Mayhem, who, I would probably have to do like a whole video on Mayhem all on its own, but Euronymus was the kind of the main songwriting, mastermind behind Mayhem in the late 80s and early 90s before his murder. And so his songwriting and learning a lot of the Mayhem riffs on guitar, it really taught me a lot about how to actually like write black metal, because, in my opinion, he was, at the top when it came to being a black metal songwriter and just coming up with catchy riffs that were just evil and just metal and just amazing. And, just, I could go on and on about it, but definitely a huge inspiration for me musically with the album that I put out. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on. That's actually the next topic. But Euronymus has definitely played a huge role in my songwriting and kind of where I, the way I think about music and put songs together. A lot of that kind of comes from, learning his music and coming to understand the way it's divided up and just how to play it. And so the techniques all used in his riffs and everything have been incredibly helpful and beneficial for me as a songwriter. And so I would definitely put Euronymus at the top. But second, I would put Carrie Mccoy, who is the lead guitarist for Def Heaven. I believe I mentioned him in the last episode. But Def Heaven was my phase before black metal. So, I've been really into black metal pretty much this whole year through 2021. I really got into it in like January. And so, it's been almost a year that I've been listening to this stuff straight, and I still love it. I'm still listening to the same kind of music all the time. I mean, my taste is definitely broadened. Like for a long time, I was like only listening to black metal. It was like the only music I would listen to and put in my daily rotation. And so, that went on for a long time. But now, in the past few months, I've kind of been broadening it and expanding it a little bit. But Def Heaven, like I had talked about in the last episode, I had learned a lot of their music, the whole album of Sunbather on guitar, actually. I'd learned the whole thing. And so learning those songs so early on in my, guitar learning process uh, definitely had the biggest impact on my songwriting. The way I think about guitar and the way, I put songs together on the guitar with the notes on the fretboard, all of that comes from the things I learned from learning Sunbather. Because, learning those chords and seeing how he moves the notes around in the chords to construct these incredibly atmospheric and just melodic riffs, that is really what inspired the biggest, or had the biggest impact on my songwriting, and was the biggest inspiration for kind of how I learned to write music. And for that, I'm very grateful, because I really love the music that I've been able to write and come up with, and I really like the sounds that I've come up with. And so I have to thank Carrie Mccoy for a lot of that, because his album Sunbather had the biggest impact on my songwriting. And I'm very thankful for that. And like, learning it so early on, like I said, it was the first main big thing that I ever learned on guitar. I had played for a little while and had just kind of learned some riffs and, a basic amount of theory. But when I finally decided I wanted to learn this album on guitar, that is when everything opened up for me, and everything, my understanding of the instrument, changed and broadened. And so I'm very, very thankful for that. And Deaf Heaven has definitely had a huge inspiration on my songwriting. But the next artist would be Jeff Mangum of Neutral Milk Hotel, whose acoustic driven music and more folky sounds are obviously very present in the inspiration for my album. My album being fully acoustic driven was definitely a choice that I made, both because of Neutral Milk Hotel and the seeing how heavy and effective acoustic music can be to convey negative emotions and heavy sort of things. But with that being said, like, my album was hugely inspired by the acoustic driven sounds of Neutral Milk Hotel, but also the fact that my setup for recording electric guitar on my new computer was not really an option, because I lost access to most of my virtual sample libraries. My guitar, was it Bias Effects? I had the original Bias Effects 1 plugin, and I was using the free trial of it, and then they don't make that anymore, and so Bias Effects 2 doesn't really work the same, and I don't like it as much. So kind of working on that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, the acoustic driven nature of the Neutral Milk Hotel stuff has definitely played a huge role in kind of my songwriting, and had an impact on my album, like I've said. And just his singing style has definitely been kind of something that's inspired me a little bit, and kind of I've thought about writing some more sing-songy sort of tracks, but I haven't really gotten around to doing that yet. I don't know when that'll come. I'm not really a good lyric writer. I really enjoy writing music, but I'm not a very good lyricist. But with that being said, the last artist is the band. It's a one-man project, and I've talked about it on the channel before, but the Ruins of Beverage, they have been or I guess he has been a huge influence on my atmospheric sort of parts. Oop, I keep hitting the desk and moving the camera. But the atmospheric sort of parts of my music were definitely very inspired by Exuvia, the album. I recommended it fairly early on in the podcast, but that album especially, the atmospheric sort of darker parts of that album had a huge impact on my album, and just an impact on my love for atmospheric music. I guess that's kind of where it started, because I really like post-rock and stuff now, but before I was listening to that, I was listening to Exuvia. It was kind of the entrance for me into more atmospheric sounding music. And so yeah, I mean, that's Exuvia is just a great album all the way through, the guitar work and everything. I definitely think the black metal-y parts of that album also had inspiration for me as well, but you don't necessarily see that come through as much on the album, I think. But yeah, I would say those are my big influences musically, kind of the ones that I can pick out and pinpoint off the top of my head that have had the biggest impact on my songwriting. would definitely be those four. And so, with that being said, the next topic is about the album. I want to talk a little bit about how I recorded it, kind of the process, the creative process for recording the album. So if y'all haven't listened to my album yet, the link is in the description of every podcast for the Bandcamp. It's also on Spotify and Apple Music, so I would highly recommend checking it out. I would love to hear some feedback on it. But I released the album at the beginning of October, and it was fairly quick, honestly, the process of coming up with it and the writing process, I guess, because a lot of it was I would just sit at my computer and I would be like, I'm going to do a song tonight. And I would sit and I would play, and just what I felt and my emotional expression that I was coming out with the guitar, the notes I was playing and everything, I just kind of turned them into songs, and I would just stack each, idea. Like I would play it and then I would come up with an idea related to it, and I would just stack them on top of one another, and I would come up with these songs, and I would always listen back to them, at the end when I had finished them, and be like, this is crazy how cool this sounds, that I stacked everything and made it into such a cohesive sounding, song. And that was really the process for the whole album. I would sit and I would just come up with some ideas. I had a few riffs that were kind of in the riff bucket when I was writing the album that I knew for sure I wanted to use and had come up with for the purpose, I guess, of the album. But a lot of it too was me just kind of sitting down and just kind of screwing around and coming up with riffs on the fly. And I think that's something that's very cool and more real about the album. Like, it's truly capturing like my emotions and how I'm feeling like in the moment. Like, it was a perfect expression of my feelings and my emotions in the moment and in the times of writing the songs and recording them. And so I thought it was really cool, the process. But as far as the instruments used, I used my acoustic guitar, which is normally sitting over there, but it's actually out in my car right now. I used my acoustic guitar. I used this pencil, and I used this hand drum here, which I've had this hand drum since like 2008. I talked about that with the Disney vacation. But as you can see, I have huge hands, but it's a pretty small hand drum. And so those were the three instruments, and the only three instruments that I used to record the whole album. And then for one track, I used an EBow on the acoustic guitar. But other than that, what you hear, that's it. Those are the only instruments that you hear on the entire album. And so I thought it was pretty cool that I got such an ethereal, kind of dreamy and atmospheric, ambient sound. And all of that was done. I used Reaper. My digital audio workstation of choice is Reaper, and has been for a very long time. I used to use Audacity, and I use Audacity for like voice recording. All of this is being done through OBS, but prior, before the webcam, I was using Audacity for all the audio for these episodes. But Reaper had definitely been like my musical, DAW of choice. And I used all of the built-in, effects that you can just put on any of the tracks. I mic'd it up. I actually used the old Newer mic because, like I said, I just got this one. But the Newer mic was the star of the show for that, actually. It really captured the kind of lo-fi quality that I really wanted. And I think the clarity of this mic especially is really good for voice work like this, but for music, I'm not so sure if it'll be so good for the lo-fi sound. So the NW800, which is sitting up there, might get some more use for the next album, depending on the sound I want to go for. But I think that the sound overall, I was really happy with the tones, the like I said, the dreamy sort of ambient sections. I was really happy with how all that turned out. Especially being done like in my bedroom, like with a microphone, and I didn't even have this like pop filter at the time. I had just like a little, I think I actually have it right here. Yeah, I had one of these covers that I just put on it. But I was just using that, my guitar, and then the EBow. And then for the drums, there were the percussion sections, like I said, were mostly the hand drum, but there was a song too where I actually just hit the body of the acoustic guitar as well. But yeah, it was very low production, or not like low quality production, but low budget production, I guess is the right word that I'm looking for. All done in my bedroom here. So it was really cool to be able to say that I wrote and recorded an entire album in my bedroom. And it took, I think, about 10 days. I think it was 10 days that it took me to do the whole album. And I was actually, for a while, I was doing like, there are 8 tracks on the album. And I did 5 of them, I believe, like one right after the other, like day-wise. Like I did one Sunday, then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I did 5 of them that way. And then I took a little break and recorded the remaining 3 tracks. And those were a little more spread out. But the way they're actually ordered on the album is not the way that they were originally recorded. They're a little bit out of order. But in general, they actually kind of follow the order fairly well. I think I only moved it was like the 3 tracks I think that I moved around. So, you're kind of hearing it in a progression of how I wrote them in a way, which I think is kind of cool. But, I was overall really happy with how the album turned out to be done all on my own. I had no help with it. It was all done by me. And so I was really proud with the results of that. But, that was kind of the recording process for the album. And then I did the art. I made the picture, the album art. It was a picture that my brother had taken in an abandoned house that was at the front of my neighborhood. And I think I've talked about this before, maybe. But, he took the picture. And so I just, he sent me the original picture image file. And I edited it in GIMP, which is like a free Photoshop alternative. And I edited it in there and made my album cover. And I was really happy with how it turned out. I thought it looked really, really cool. And almost kind of fit the vibe of the album. So I was really happy with that. Definitely captured the vision that I was going for. I had known since forever that I was going to use that picture. And so being able to kind of make it so cool and unique and dark looking, I was really happy with that. But overall, the album is definitely a project that I was very, very happy with. And if you haven't listened to it, like I said, it's called Lament. It's on Bandcamp, Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, although I don't even know what that is. Tidal, I think. It's on like all the major ones. I released it with DistroKid, so it's all out there. But I would love to get some feedback on it. But with that being said, we're going to transfer into the last topic of the video, which is actually something, it's musical that I've done, a project that I did, but nobody's actually ever heard it. It was a EP that I wrote and recorded, and it's a black metal EP, and I recorded like electric guitar. I used like my plug-in, my bias effects, and direct in with my interface. I recorded the guitar. I programmed drums, I did bass, and I wrote lyrics for vocals that my brother was going to perform. And then there were 3 black metal tracks and 2 interludes, I believe. And so it was something that I was really proud of, honestly. It turned out really well. All of the songs were original. One was one that I had written a fair amount of time ago, like about a year ago now. I think I originally wrote the song in November 2020, and then I finished the EP in like March or April maybe. So I kind of sat on that song for a while, but it ended up getting used on the EP, and then there were 2 other original songs that I wrote. One that I sat down and wrote in my bonus room with my amp. I sat and just came up with all the riffs on that song, wrote it, and I was pretty happy with it. It was pretty boppy. And then there was a third one that I did kind of on the spot. Like I just sat down, I was like, I'm going to do a song. So I wrote one for that as well. And then the interlude tracks were very much a precursor to my album. You can honestly hear like a lot of the it's like the baby sound that became my album. Like you can hear a lot of the same ideas that I was kind of experimenting with at the time that came out on my album that were fully fleshed out. But you can kind of hear the framework for some of those ideas. And I thought that was pretty cool in hindsight, thinking about that. Like with the EP, you can really hear like the precursor to the album in a sense. Like you can hear kind of how my sound evolved and changed in songwriting, and everything evolved and changed. And I was just really happy with that. And I thought it was pretty cool. But the EP is something I definitely need to finish. I've been sitting on it now for a pretty long while. I finished it, like I said, maybe I finished it in June. Maybe it was a little closer to the summer. I can't quite remember. It was like earlier, pretty good bit early on in this year. But I have finished the EP and never got around to getting it mixed and vocals and everything done and released. But maybe that's definitely something I could do. It would be like a separate project, though, for sure, from my from Lament and the following albums that come out like that. And I actually have one planned. I have like a name picked out and kind of the theme, the style I'm gonna go for, but I haven't started any songwriting for that yet. But it will be coming. Don't worry. That'll be coming out eventually, and writing will get started, and I will definitely keep the viewers updated about that. But yeah, I mean, the EP was definitely a baby sort of form of my final sound that came out on the album. A lot of ideas that I fully fleshed out, like I said. And so the EP might be something that I work to release sometime in the future, like I said, under like a separate name maybe. But it was definitely pretty cool to be kind of written so, haphazardly and quickly. It was a very quick process. But I would definitely kind of have to go back and listen to that and see kind of, what I could do with it, and maybe see if there's anything I could change to make it any better to release. But yeah, I'll definitely keep y'all updated about that. But yeah, with that being said, that pretty much finishes out all the topics for this video. Definitely, like I said, a very music themed episode, but music is one of is my favorite thing in the whole world. And so being able to talk about it, I could talk forever about music and, my inspirations and my favorite songs and guitars and drums and all sorts of instruments. I play a lot of different instruments. And so, I have a huge passion for music. I live and breathe it and just love it. And so being able to talk about music is definitely something that I enjoy. And maybe I'll do some more in-depth content with music on the channel, like some album reviews or analysis that I kind of do deep dives on. That would definitely be something I'd be down to do. But give me some feedback in the comments. Just let me know what y'all would like to see. I've thought about doing like some unsolved mystery type stuff, like maybe some murder cases. I'm really into true crime as well, so thought about maybe covering some of that stuff as well. But we'll see. Definitely it'll take some experimentation. But with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this episode, and please leave a like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. I know I sound like it's like a meme at this point to say that, but I gotta throw it in there. But yeah, with that being said, I hope this video finds you on a positive headspace, a good time, positive time in your life. And if not, just know that things will get better. You will get through it. And we're all out here, community. We all love one another. And so, yeah, I'm rooting for you. But with that being said, I've been Colin. This has been episode 15 of A New Direction. Stay chill. Have a good rest of your day or night or evening, or wherever, whatever time it may be where you're located. And I will see y'all next time.